everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, two graded stakes races on tap at Oaklawn on Saturday, including the DRF race of the day. Race number 9 is the Grade 3 Essex Handicap. $500,000 is the purse. We're going a mile and a 16th. Let's take a peek at this field. Please scan the QR code or click on it for race of the day access on mobile with free formulator past performances. Good field of 10 in here, Mike. Several quality horses. And I guess one of the key questions in this race was last time the time for the number 10 Last Samurai, who pulled off a mild 8-1 upset in the Razorback and now draws a tough outside post.
Yeah, they move him to the outside. I don't think the post is a huge issue for him, Dan. And it does kind of feel like he's in another race here that could set up pretty well for him. I mean, I felt like he had a really good trip last time in a race where the two favorites sort of wound up contesting it. Last Samurai got a clean run into it, but he was also much the best at the end. It's another fast race for him. I like his last race. I like him as a horse overall, but your point's well taken about maybe last time being the time.
Let's throw up the Timeform US Pace Projector, because I had a tough time figuring out who would be on the lead in here. I didn't think it would be the 2 Vittorio, who I think is more tactical than anything else. I think he'll be close to the pace, but I'm not sure outright on it. Call Me Fast has really turned the corner since utilizing speed tactics, but we know Classic Causeway is also fast, and he might be the fastest out of the gate.
Yeah, Classic Causeway, to me anyways, clearly the key to this race as far as the pace goes. First time back on dirt since last June in the Ohio Derby. He's a fast horse. I doubt switching back to dirt here off of a lap, that I doubt they take his speed away from him. He's going to go forward in here. It kind of feels like the 4 has no other choice but to go after, wiring fields in his first 2 starts of the year here. Vittorio, I think, is going to be up close, but I'm with you. I don't necessarily think he's going to be on the lead.
The Forza d'Oro, also a stalker, can be close to the pace. And you have the stretch-out ability of Necker Island, who's been sprinting recently. The number 1 Silver Prospector is a handy sort, breaking from the inside post. You can pretty much place him anywhere, and he's a really likable horse. He's earned over $1 million. He's won 3 graded stakes races, and he's done well at Oaklawn. He won the Southwest as a 3-year-old, and he got back on the beam in this race. Over a wet track, second start off the layoff, they dropped him into an allowance race, maybe to build up his confidence. He ran well. He was supposed to win this race. He did it, but he was 4 wide at both turns.
Yeah, 4 wide around the track in here for the most part, but also just sitting a really comfortable trip. Getting right up close to the pace, in hand most of the way. Listen, I have no knocks on this horse. He sort of shows up and he runs every single time. I'm, personally not someone who wants him at short prices, and maybe he takes a little bit of money in this race, Dan, but there's a good trip coming. It feels like, again, more than anything else, he ran well last time, but more than anything else, when you watch that replay, it doesn't seem like anybody was really running behind him. I don't want to take too much away from him. He just did what he was supposed to do. I just don't know if I love that race.
No, that was the spot, for him. He dropped down. He wasn't facing the strongest field in the world. And while he has won graded stakes races, he's been had in the past. You're absolutely right. It's all about price for him in this tougher spot. The number 2 is Vittorio, one of the horses in this race with most of the upside potential, I think. He's coming out of a good performance last time out. First time Bilmont. Now consider the horse he was running against in this race, Charge It, who's, I know he disappointed in his subsequent start when he lost at odds on, but he still earned a 99 buyer and is pretty good. Vittorio ran really well and never quit when he was second. And he was also doing this in his first start off of a lengthy layoff, so he could certainly move forward.
Yeah, he could. He actually runs well in here. It kind of looked like around that final turn, he made a move around the turn there, Dan. And it just kind of felt like he wasn't going to get anywhere near Charge It. But boy, he stayed really gamely to the end there and was actually gaining ground in the late stages. The time we saw him before that, way back last April at Santa Anita, another race where he just gets wired by a 2-5 shot. He actually ran well that day also. I don't know. It feels like there's maybe better to come for this horse, and he's coming off of a really good performance.
I think you can project upside. I think you can predict a pretty good trip, saving ground in behind the leaders in the second flight. The number 3 is Rated R Superstar, and he is another horse that's lovable. He's 10 years old. He does his best running at Oaklawn. He's earned $1 million just at Oaklawn by himself. He's won this race twice in the past. Is he getting a little bit long in the tooth? That's the question I have to ask you. Give him pace. He'll come running in the end.
Yeah, I mean, obviously pace is the big key for him. I personally thought, Dan, he ran okay 2 starts back in the 5th season. That wasn't, particularly fast paced. He made a pretty nice run after coming really wide to the stretch. I would be maybe a little concerned about his most recent start there, the Razorback, where Last Samurai made a good run to close that race down. Rated R Superstar, for the first time in a while, he really didn't show up with anything in the stretch of that race. That was a little bit disappointing. He's bounced back from poor performances before, though, and if they go fast in front of him, I think it's fair to expect him to put in a good late run here, and he should be a fair price.
A change in tactics and stretching out around 2 turns has really helped the number 4 Call Me Fast, who returned off of a short layoff with career best buyers in each of his last 2 starts, including this race, a second level allowance at Oaklawn, going the mile with the short stretch. Now, this pace wasn't necessarily fast. They almost went 47 seconds flat to the half mile. He's a little bit green, but he's also pretty game, and he gets it done.
Yeah, this was a little bit of a match race between him and the horse who winds up finishing second. They just went up to the lead together. They just sort of matched up there. I'm with you. I don't think they were going that fast, and Call Me Fast managed to get the job done. He ran well 2 starts back also. I won't knock his recent form, Dan. This pace is supposed to be a lot faster, and to me, he's just got to improve a lot if he's going to beat this field.
The 5 Classic Causeway, multiple graded stakes winner on dirt, grade 1 stakes winner on turf. His versatility is obvious. Now he's going to have to do this in his first start off about a 4.5-month layoff. We know his running style. He likes to go to the front. He should show fresh speed in here.
I don't see how he's not, just going to come out of there running and try to make the lead here, Dan. It's a little, you have to be at least a little concerned with him switching back to dirt for this race, if only because towards the first part of last year, and then, into the Derby, even if you want to give him a pass for that one, I don't know. His form wasn't great on the main track. He did finish 3rd in the Ohio Derby, but I didn't think he ran a particularly good race that day. He was sort of controlling the pace outside of another long shot and just seemed like he wasn't good enough at the end. I know he did some good things on turf towards the end of last year. I don't know, man. I'd be very reluctant to take him in this race as they switch back to dirt, although I know that he could win if he shows up and runs his good race.
The 6 is Necker Island, and he's going to be stretching out in distance for his second start off of the layoff. He really didn't have much chance last time out in a sprint, in a short field, in a slow-paced race that was dominated by the winner, who we'll see earlier on the Saturday card in the Whitmore. Necker Island, though, probably gained a good amount of fitness for this race. He's run well at a mile. Now he's got to stretch it out to a mile and a 16th and prove it against better horses.
Yeah, fair enough to just, look at this race right here and say he was off a layoff. He probably needed it. The pace wasn't fast, all those kinds of things. To me, it just kind of felt like they did right by this horse by cutting him back to sprint last year, Dan. It felt like a really good move for them. He sort of rewarded them with some good performances, and now they're going to stretch him back out into a race that's supposed to be pretty hard for him to win.
It's been a shame that the 7 Forza d'Oro's career has had just fits and starts due to various physical ailments. We liked him a lot at 3 when he won the Discovery at the end of that season, but then it took him 8 months to get back to the track. He was the beaten favorite in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Then there was another long layoff. Last time out in the Grade 3 Louisiana, he was on the pace, and the pace wasn't necessarily fast, but maybe that's not his best running style, A, and B, that was a pretty good field. One of the horses that he finished ahead of came back to win an allowance with a 100 buyer.
It was a good field. That pace wasn't fast, and he was able to clear the lead pretty easily. But, it's at least worth pointing out that the 2 favorites in that race were the 2 horses who just sat right up close with him, just sort of tracking. They wound up finishing 4th and 5th. They didn't really stay on. This horse stayed on. And he was pretty game at the end to just get run down in the very late stages. I thought he looked like a horse who got really tired in his first start back off the layoff. I thought he took a step forward last time, and he could take a step forward again. And if he does, he could be really, really tough in this race.
I think an underrated horse is up next. That's the number 8, Tawny Port. And I think you can make an argument that he's a little bit dirtied up. He did do some good things last year, sandwiched, the Kentucky Derby sandwiched in between graded stakes wins in both the Lexington and the Ohio Derby. And then he ran a fine race in the Jim Dandy. Now, listen, he didn't have much chance in the Pennsylvania Derby against Taba. And last time out was his first race off of a long layoff where he likely gained a little bit of conditioning. He should get the right setup. It's not like he's a one-run closer. He can sit in mid-pack. Does he have to run a career best? Perhaps, but the price will be right for top-notch connections.
Yeah, he's the newly turned 4-year-old in the field. I was a big fan of his last year as a 3-year-old, and just felt like he had an awful lot of potential. I guess you could certainly make the argument that he wound up ultimately delivering on that potential. He ran some really nice races to win those 2 graded races that you were talking about, Dan. His Pennsylvania Derby was bad. They stopped on him after that. He looked like a horse who really needed the mine shaft off the leg. He didn't have a poor trip in that race, but he was working hard and he was pretty tired, but he never stopped running through the stretch. I think he really needed that effort, and I think he's taken a step forward here.
Keystone Field is the number 9. Now, he won the Claiming Crown Jewel 4 starts back, and then he earned a big figure 2 starts back at Oaklawn over this distance. You do have to wonder if maybe this company of horse is a little bit tough for him, because off that big figure win, he came back in the Razorback, and he did not run very well.
Yeah, he was just no match last time in a way tougher race. Even when he won with the fast figure 2 starts back, he just got a perfect trip in that race. And I thought he kind of took advantage a little bit. I wouldn't bet him off of any of his other starts, Dan, and I'm not going to really expect him to run another triple-digit buyer in here.
Last Samurai really likes Oaklawn Park, and maybe you could sense that most recent race was coming. This start, the Razorback Handicap at 1 1/16, because his prior effort, he easily outran his 51-to-1 odds when a rallying 4th in the Pegasus World Cup. He's a horse that kicks when the pace is solid. The pace wasn't great in here, but he came with a good, strong run. From this outside post, you just expect them to take back, try to make one run, and in the form he's in right now, maybe he is the best pure closer in this race, even with a horse like Rated R Superstar involved.
Yeah, he might be. He was certainly a better closer than Rated R Superstar last time in the Razorback. He wound up winning that race easily, and you're right, the pace, I don't think he would call it fast, but the 2 favorites who wound up finishing 2nd and 3rd, they sort of hooked it up around that 2nd turn and raced a little bit, and they both got tired at the end, and Last Samurai came, and he closed them down. He was really good last time. I think if he runs like that again, it's pretty easy to say he'd probably win right back.
Before we take a look at our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Top pick time for our Saturday race of the day. It's a wide open race. You got millionaires all over the place. Forza d'Oro, the 7, is a horse that's always had potential. It's nice to see he's now racing without breaks in between starts, and he might have the right running style sitting a 3-wide tracking trip.
Yeah, I thought he would get a good trip in this race. He should be right up close. He doesn't need to be on the lead, but he should be up close to the pace. And again, I just thought he needed that start off the layoff there in December, Dan. He took a little step forward last time. He can improve again.
Silver Prospector won last time out, but I wonder if stepping up in class against horses that he's faced in the past with some success, maybe his price is inflated. I think he can work out a good trip in here. He's one of several horses that likes this track. I need at least 6-to-1, however, before I'd even consider it. 7-8-2-10 for Mike, 1-10-2-4 for me. It is the Essex, the Saturday race of the day. Good luck.